Hi there. I'd like to share with you some information. I want to talk about some of my experience with the deaf community over the years. I teach an ASL class. There's different discussions and situations that we have in college. And I would like to encourage the students to get involved in the deaf community, right? To really practice their sign language. That's probably one of the best ways to practice. Remember, these are hearing students that are just beginning ASL classes, so they're not the best signers yet. Because of this, I suggest they go to coffee night or some of the Starbucks events with a lot of deaf actors, maybe even a play. But when they go, they need to know what type of behavior is appropriate. They need to understand that they can get involved, but they don't want to overwhelm anybody. I remember talking with a nice deaf woman. We were chatting, and she was helping me develop some of my ideas. So are you ready? Here's some deaf community etiquette number 1. Deaf community meaning sign language only. Let's say you're in a room with a deaf or hard of hearing person. It's very important to always be signing or using some sort of sign language. It doesn't matter if the deaf person's involved in the conversation or has just walked through the door. It's always better to keep signing. The reason for this is it's showing respect. If the person happens to look over to you, they are on an equal footing in terms of communication. Let's say you're chatting with a deaf or hard of hearing person. Remember to keep your voice off. Just use your sign language. The reason for this is using sign and talking at the same time. That's called SimCom. If you do that, there's going to be a tendency for you using or leaning on your English rather than your sign language. It's much better to just turn your voice off and you'll have a clearer form of sign language. Number 2. Let's say you're chatting with someone. And the person asks you to mouth a bit more. It's always better to be more respectful and use more expressions on your face. The reason for this is there's a possibility they may be lip reading. And sometimes with new signers, their sign language could be wrong. If the deaf person can read your lips a little better, then they can catch more of the things you're trying to say. It's also more respectful on your part. So remember, if you're asked to move your mouth more or give bigger expression, make sure to do so. Number 3. Let's say you're chatting with a group of deaf people or a deaf person. And there's some sort of issue with being able to see. It's always better to just try to walk around. And for some reason, if you're stuck or you can't move, and you need to go outside, it's perfectly fine to just sneak right under. Or you can just sign, "Excuse me." You don't have to make extreme eye contact or mess up anybody's conversation. Just walk right through and say, "Excuse me." Number 4. How would you initiate a conversation? You could tap someone on the shoulder. That's a usually appropriate spot to get someone's attention. Or you can just sort of wave. Eventually, you'll catch their eye contact. Now let's say you're in a very large group filled with blinking lights and people walking all over the place. Once everyone's looking at you, then you can go ahead and sign. Number 5. Interactional versus, be nice, be respectful. Realize that you're an ASL student. That's their event, that's their culture, and you're just joining. Deaf people and hard of hearing people can be very patient, they can be very nice. If they understand that you're a new signer, they can be very welcoming. But it's important to respect their time for socialization. A lot of the time, deaf people are busy working with family or going about doing their business. They're very busy. This is their one time to come together and just enjoy themselves and socialize. In a non-formal way, maybe saying just, remember to respect and care for their time as individuals. Let's say you were to run into a person and ask them for them to teach you something. Make sure to not take a long time about this, maybe a minute or two. And remember to always say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to socialize and be friendly. Say that you really enjoyed it, and then take yourself out of the situation. Remember, you're there to learn. If you show up and you have some sort of question, you can always make notes and bring it to your ASL teacher later. Then you can discuss it in more detail. Remember, you're there to socialize. It's free time. Number 6. Let's say you want to learn with someone on a one-on-one basis. You can ask them if you can set up a time where you can both meet. Especially if you want to discuss for a longer period of time. So number 7 is writing and exchanging notes is perfectly fine. But if you keep writing back and forth for a really long time, make sure to go back to ASL class and learn more signs. It's very important to be able to sign with the person. Then you can go back and have a real, genuine conversation using ASL rather than writing on notes. Number 8. You have to respect native signers. Respect their opinion, respect their feedback. Let's say someone is talking to you and give you some feedback. Always behave in a nice way. Accept their feedback and say thank you. Make sure to keep that information in the back of your head. Remember, it's never appropriate to argue with someone who's a native signer or say something like your teacher told you a different way. I want to repeat, that is not appropriate. If they give you feedback, keep it in the back of your head and just say thank you. Then, if you want, you can always go check with more teachers or other students later. This way you can really improve your skills and develop your language skills. Remember to always respect the American Sign Language users' language and culture. And lastly, enjoy yourself. Travel. Learn as much as possible and have fun with this. ASL is a learning experience, so enjoy your learning experience.